Finance Committee meeting to order on Tuesday, February 25th. We'll start with roll call. Alder Corpus Dax present,
Alder Kathy LaFave, present.
Alder Galvin is present.
and Alder Dorf is excused due to illness. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. D, regular business. First item, we have consideration with possible action on a request from the City Assessor's Office to cancel certain property taxes. Resolution to cancel $3,107.29. Staff.
Okay, in front of you, you will see a resolution that has 3 different properties that we are looking to cancel. First one is real estate. It was for 2019. As the note said behind it, there was a property that had a fire. It was still standing at the end of December of 18, so 1/1 of 19. It was still standing, didn't realize it had a fire, so it was assessed at a full value. It was raised sometime in that spring, so it was overtaxed. So there is a request here to reduce the amount of taxes that that gentleman is owed. And the next 2 items is there was some confusion, miscommunication with the state. They have some mini cell towers. I think our assessor is here also, but mini cell towers where we thought we had to locally assess them, and it ended up being also assessed by manufacturing. So they both were double taxed. So the locally assessed are the ones that are supposed to be reduced. So that is what is in front of you. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. We also have the assessor here. Do you have any specific questions?
No, sounds pretty straightforward.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion passes. Number 2, request approval to award a 3-year contract to Bellin Health Systems for the firefighter NFPA 1582 medical compliant physicals for $114,870 or $38,290 annually, with the option of 2 additional 1-year contracts upon mutual agreement by both parties.
All right, do you have any questions? Before we get started, I would like to introduce our new procurement manager. Calvin Winters is right there. This is Alder Galvin, Alder Corpus Dax, and Alder LaFave on our finance committee. So he has joined us as of last Monday, and so he's here to learn.
Welcome.
And Jackie, did you have the physicals?
I did.
Okay, and so Jackie's from our purchasing office. She is a buyer. She has helped work on this agreement or contract. Do you have any specific questions?
I did not have any questions on
No,
this
I
one.
do not.
Obviously, the fire staff is also here if you have any questions on it.
So I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation as presented by staff.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Let's see here. Number 2, request approval to purchase compressor systems for the Green Bay Fire Department from 5 Alarm Fire and Safety Equipment LLC for $108,750.
Again, I don't know if you have any specific questions. The fire department is buying new SCBA equipment, and this is the compressor system to go along with that new equipment that they're purchasing.
Is this the only bid that you had, or?
Nope, there were 2 responses. Looks like there was one for 5 Alarm Fire and Safety Equipment, and then
That's
there's also
Oshkosh.
one from Oshkosh Fire.
Okay. Mhm.
So it looks like it was the lowest qualified bidder. It was a quote, so it would have been the lowest qualified bidder that came in, and that was is recommended for award.
I have a question for staff. You were here last month, and I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what the equipment was that we approved back then.
Yeah, so it was the
David, would you want to come up
SCBA.
to the
Sure.
podium?
Yeah, the whole-
So Dave Coles, potentially.
Thank you.
So, and I don't have my toys with me.
Sure.
But, so yeah, it was the whole harness
Okay.
with the air pack, the bottle in the back. And it was
Okay.
122 of the harnesses and 240 bottles. And then the camera that goes on the pack.
Okay.
If you remember, it was at that entire thing, plus the masks for every
Right.
individual firefighter. Yep.
And this is the compressor system to,
Yeah, so these compressor systems, there's 3 of them that are on the bid, and they're the compressors that fill the bottles.
Okay.
Yep, and so we would be putting, this bid is for 3 of them, one at Station 2 over here on
Okay.
University of Webster, one at Station 6, Fireman's Hill, and one at Station 5.
okay,
And right now, we run with one compressor. We've been running with that since all of us have been on the fire department, and we have to shuttle air via truck.
Oh,
all right.
And so this would solve that problem. And the new packs that I showed you last month are
Right.
the higher pressure. And so we need the higher compressors to fill the higher pressure, the higher PSI.
makes sense.
And in the old system, what are we doing with that?
Well, that is up for discussion. I think AC Goff can probably fill you in more on what the plan is for
One
that.
other question.
Yep,
Can the Green Bay dive team charge their tanks?
yeah.
Okay,
So any dive team can, and we also fill sometimes for the Department of Corrections and
Sure.
things like that. Ultimately, what we usually do with equipment that we're liquidating is we put it up on an auction site, and that's probably what we will do with the existing compressor. What you get for that is just dependent on the need for it, and because it's a slightly lower compressor, we don't, slightly lower pressure, we don't know that exactly what we'll get for it, but ultimately it will go up for auction, and the money will come back to the city.
okay. All right, thank you. I'll
Any
make
other
a-
questions?
Sure. Oh,
No, any other questions?
no. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. All right, number 4, request approval to purchase sound-off lights and siren package for the Green Bay Police Department vehicles from Sound Off Signal for $42,056.31.
Again, in your packet, you will see the information of the original competitive bid. It looks like they only did get one bid, but it did come off the GSA cooperative. And behind it, you'll see the details of that siren package, light and siren package.
If I understand, this is for 10 units?
10 units, 1 Chevy Tahoe Command, and 2 Dodge Ram trucks. Correct?
That is probably correct. I'm not sure, the buyer who did work on this is not here today.
Okay.
She doesn't normally work on Tuesdays. But yeah, you're right, I think the details do show the volume of what these light bars are going to be put on.
That's really
Yeah.
Does it look like it's summarized? This is in the,
That's 10 squad SUVs, a Tahoe, and 2 trucks.
Okay. I have no questions.
Dr. Galvin?
No, I have none.
Oh, you have none?
None.
Okay.
I don't do that.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid.
Second?
All right, motion made by Alder LaFave, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, number 5, consideration with possible action to approve a 5-year contract with ArcServe for $93,621.
okay, in your packet, you will see a one-page document that shows the 5-year gold maintenance, the ArcServe with a 5-year maintenance agreement. Director from the IT department, Mike Ronick is here, if you have any questions.
Mike, this is all Greek to me.
Yeah, right. What's an ArcServe?
ArcServe is basically going to replace our current backup and storage appliance.
Okay,
So that is not end of life, but this is a better product,
okay.
better security, and it also backs up Office 365 for free, where the other one will not.
Okay, we've got a 5-year contract, and at the end of that time,
Well,
who knows what's going to change in 5 years?
yeah, that's a
Okay.
good point.
Yeah, especially today with, things are changing. So
And when you say security, are you talking about the potential for unknown entities to enter into our system?
Yes, this has security built right into it. It has Sophos into it, built right into it, and that is our current product citywide.
Okay.
So it's a good product. I shouldn't maybe mention this, but this product is at the city of Oshkosh, which was recently attacked. and they restored their data from this appliance.
Because of they had this.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
All right.
they could have had a different one too, but they
Right.
had this one.
Okay,
All right.
so it's a good one for us then. Okay.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No questions, but I think, yeah, it's imperative that we make sure we have a backup and protect our systems.
Okay.
All right, Thank you, Mike.
I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, motion made by Alder Galvin, seconded by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 6, request by Alder Johnson to provide an inventory of all fees charged by the city of Green Bay and create an annual cost accounting policy to review and recommend rate modifications as necessary. Staff.
I have talked to Alder Johnson, and he is fine with us having you refer this to staff,
Okay.
so we can take some time to look through the different permits and fees and that we have out there. I'm also gonna, I got information from our city attorney that they are going through a recodification in 2020, which means they're gonna look at all of our ordinances, and they're gonna pull out anything that has fees and put them on a, so that, pull them out of the ordinance so that on an annual basis, a resolution can be submitted so that we can adopt the resolution, on an annual basis, so that you really are gonna be looking at the fees on a regular basis.
Sure.
So again, refer to staff and we can get, we'll get more information per the request by Alder Johnson.
Do you know if other municipalities review them annually, or do they do like anywhere between a 1 and 5 year review?
I really can't answer that. I would have to do some research on that.
I can address that. Most of the time, they're done on an annual basis, because what you will do is you will look at all of them at the same time, literally just as a single resolution. And so the recommendation, so you'll adopt it annually, but as far as changing them, that may happen later. Really, this is bringing it in front of you, so you know what the numbers are on a regular basis.
Yeah, because I think it's a good idea because of what happened with our last rate
With the liquor
increase.
license?
Yeah, it was such a jump all of a sudden, and, yeah, it's a good
Right.
idea.
And to that end, Diane, there was some social media kick up about that license fee increase. And I made a comment that the fees cannot exceed what it costs the city to administer the fees. Correct?
That is not correct.
That
According
is
to our
not.
city clerk, for this fee, it specifically says that it, you just have to be within the range, and it does not, you do not have to have justification for the costs. But
Okay.
internally, the majority of our costs, we do have justification and we do have backup.
Is that all fees or just for liquor law, or liquor licenses?
So it depends on what we're talking about. So if they are established by statute, then we can just adopt what already has been provided by statute, which is what has happened here, where they tell us how much that range can actually be.
Okay.
The other option is we establish it based on our own determination, and when we do it on our own determination, what the courts have stated is that it needs to have a reasonable correlation to the actual amounts that we incur.
So some fees have to have an actual correlation to what it costs us to administer that fee, but other ones, we can set the fee based on what the statute allows.
Correct.
And will that be identified when we're doing this for review in the future? I mean, will that be identified to us somehow,
Whether it's statute.
whether it's statute related or? I
When we
mean-
bring them to you, we would
Yes.
definitely be able to tell you that, yes.
Okay. But the thought process, will this be a yearly thing, or that we'll be reviewing the fees, or?
Yes, so the idea would be that every year the council would have a resolution presented to them, either with budget or at the beginning of the year. And then those fees would be adopted at that time, so that if you need to make adjustments up or down, you have that opportunity to do it. And the resolution will stay in place until you guys adopt a new one. But when we establish them, the recommendation is that you do them annually. And if you do them as a resolution where everything's combined, it's a lot easier to manage.
I guess I would make a recommendation right now that they be done as part of the budget process.
I would agree, that seems like the appropriate time.
Because here we're
Yeah,
generating
right.
almost $50,000 that we haven't designated any use for.
Sure.
And so that has some people upset. But I guess if we're gonna reduce it, I mean, if we, say something happened and we reduced it by almost $50,000, then that would cause a budget shortfall for us. So I would just make a recommendation that as we're setting this up, it become part of the budget process. Just to keep it fair and above board, so people don't think we're trying to pull anything. And that's what some people thought we were doing. I'm not really sure why we chose to do it at the time we did, but it had been quite a while since those fees.
It had been quite a while, and it was time for renewals. So as we,
So
the idea of the
thought-
renewals have to go
okay.
on March 1st. Earlier in the year, we decided that was time to maybe take a look at it. I do have an email that back on, in July, I had sent out an email to all department heads and just said, something to think about is, look at your user fees, your permits and charges, it's time, it's budget time, and that we should really be looking at this. So this was sent out to all department heads to
Right.
take a look at it and to reevaluate their different fees. And so, it is something that each department head has been looking at. This is not,
Out of the blue.
It didn't mean to be a surprise.
Right.
But, by the time we worked on budget last year, our liquor license had already been done for the year. I don't want to say it slipped through the crack. It was just something that, as the new letters came out, since my information came out last fall, or request last summer, last fall, as a clerk, and we were looking at the fees for this next year, we're like, this would be the time to at least see if the council would have an appetite to increase these fees, and then it would be time to put on a new letter.
Okay. Because without the fees, our tax base would have to increase significantly. I mean, the fees throughout the city
Correct.
add quite a bit to our budget, so we need to stay on top of that and keep it fair for everybody, as it comes to property taxes and that. All right.
Do we need a motion from you, Bill?
You need a
But
motion
make-
to refer to staff.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to refer to staff.
I'll second.
All right, motion made to refer to staff by Alder Galvin and seconded by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Number 7, resolution authorizing 2019 transfer of $13,432.57 from contingency for legal expenses related to Georgia Pacific tax appeal for real estate and personal property.
So, attached to, in your packet, on the report page, you'll see a lot of information. But what you have in front of you is, there were some 2019 invoices from Cybel Law Office that pertain to the Georgia Pacific tax appeal, and there's a property tax portion, and there's a personal property tax portion. What the assessor and our attorneys have done is also have worked with other municipalities that are dealing with the same issue with Georgia Pacific. So the invoices that we received for the 2019 tax appeal, the work that they have done, completed, there was a bill for $12,420 for the real property, and then $12,360 for personal property. Each one of them, we were able to charge back a portion to the city of Neenah, city of Sheboygan, or the Green Bay School District. So you're seeing all that breakdown in this, in the detail on the report page. Then the last item was, prior finance committee meeting, we had approved an invoice for $2,222. In the meanwhile, we were able to charge back $889. So in total, we are looking to make a contingency transfer of $13,432.51, because these are expenses that we did not budget for this tax appeal. The assessor is here, or the attorney is here if you have any questions. The information in front of you.
No, this is according to what, the dark store thing?
This is not Dark Store.
No.
This is, and I may actually let our appraiser, our assessor, explain it a little more detailed.
This is the Georgia Pacific plant, the appeal of their manufacturing plants in town here, on Broadway and on Berlin Street. The two big plants that they have, they've been appealing those for the past 3 years. So this is in response to that, and we've been dealing with them for the past 3 years now. So this is the payment for the attorney fees. The actual Department of Revenue is the one that assesses the values on these, and they approached my office back at the beginning of this and asked for our help in defending the value, because they don't have the expertise anymore. They have a lot of retirements. So they asked for our help in defending the values. So we hired an expert attorney that deals in this litigation, and got the help of some other communities to pitch in to go along with this, because they also have the same type of properties. And the school district also pitched in, so we've got a lot of help to do this. So it just takes a long time for this to go through the whole system. So So that's why it's taken so long.
Okay.
And as far as your question about the dark store, that is a completely separate theory. What this is it's based off of the fact that they exempted personal property taxes at the state level, so, but for manufacturing only, I believe. And so non-manufacturers are saying, well, it doesn't say manufacturing only, it really intended to include all of us, since we're having to make that argument.
It's just flipped the other way. Locally assessed is the.
Locally, so, yeah, so manufacturing was the one that was excluded, included. And so everything else was excluded, and so they're saying it should have been included because we're being treated differently. And so we're trying to argue against it, because if it was actually that case, we would lose an exponential amount of money coming into the city as tax revenue. And more importantly, the manufacturing, which has already been taken off the tax roll, saying it right now, right?
No, the locally assessed machines and tools are the ones that were taken
Right,
out.
that's the
taken off
personal
tax.
property side.
The
There's no
personal
cap.
property, so those ones, there was a state allocation of funds to the cities and to municipalities to offset it. So the personal property that the state authorized them to take off of it, they made us whole essentially, whereas this would not.
Okay.
And do we see a light at the end of the tunnel for this whole thing, or is this?
Well, we just received, actually today, some copies of some filings that, with another case that we're privy to, that's kind of a test case that they're filing, which is the same basic principles.
Sure.
So that we're filing that one just in case, so that hopefully if we get a favorable hearing on that one, a favorable ruling, that perhaps it'll stop in the tracks at that point.
Okay.
So, hope springs eternal. Usually what happens is that between the third and fourth year, usually is what happens, because that's when the lawyers on the other side have racked up enough fees that they feel comfortable enough to start settling.
And how far into this?
This is the third
trip?
year.
Third year?
So,
All right.
that's where we're at. So I feel that within the next year or so, we should probably see some sort of resolution, because they're dragging their feet even harder now because of the fact that we've got an expert with our appraiser that we've hired has got an opinion of value based on the appraisal he's done. They're supposed to have submitted their appraisal back in December. They have not done that yet.
Okay.
So in the meantime, they're asking for all sorts of information from our Freedom of Information Act, open records law, from our inspectors, from our office, from the attorney's office. It's just a way of delaying the inevitable. So I think they know that they're gonna probably lose, but they're just trying to rack up more billable hours.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions.
All right, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
No. Okay. Second.
All right, I have a motion by Alder Galvin to approve and a second by Alder LaFave. All in favor?
Aye. I have a request. Can we go back to item 6? I had a question and I forgot to ask it.
Okay.
This is Alderman Johnson's request. Attorney Chavez, will the law department, who's going to be handling the review of the fees and that kind of stuff?
So who will ultimately be doing the fees on an annual basis is yet to be determined. Right now, we're focused on the recodification, and so with that process, there will be a trigger for us essentially to calendar it every year for it to be brought up again. And so whether it's the law department or potentially finance, somebody will be making sure that those numbers get pulled annually.
Okay. The recodification process, do we have an idea yet how long we think that might take? How many person hours, I'm sorry?
So the recodification is the project that we farmed out to MuniCode a couple of years ago. And so that process, I've been told we are on the April calendar for us to have the final version of the draft, or final version of the code in draft form, I should say. And so we will make any final revisions to it at that time, hopefully putting us in a place to be able to get it adopted by I'm hoping end of summer, end of year at the latest. We got slowed down last year a lot because we had so many people out on maternity leave. And then we just had so many turnovers. And so we're back on schedule again. we're making changes to the code itself, so you'll notice a lot of major things happening with it. Like chapter 33 would no longer be chapter 33, it'll be chapter 7 potentially. So everything will get redone in a manner that is easier for people to search it. But we're not really taking any substantive changes to it, so that's what will make this second portion of it go faster than the original portion of it did.
So this recodification, we hired a private company, did you say 2 years ago?
Yes.
So it's been 2 years of them working on this to get it up to where we are gonna be this spring, April?
They worked on it for probably 6 months, and
Okay.
then it came back to us, and it kind of
Okay.
sat because we had so many.
And then it got delayed.
Yeah.
Is this something that in the future we may wanna do internally, or is it better off for us financially to farm it out?
The recodification?
Yes.
We will not have to do this again for probably another 20 years. It's
Nope.
just when your code has been sitting for like it has for so long, eventually you want to look at it again and make sure that it's still user-friendly and it's making sense.
So it's being updated to current state statutes. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff in there that has to be taken out because it no longer applies.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're putting it, we're making sure that it comes up to state statutes. All of our references are to things that still exist, that references between sections actually point to the proper sections, referring to laws that have been superseded, getting the correct ones in there. You know, just doing a lot of cleanup on it is what we've been doing. But it's you know, a 160-page code, I believe, last time I looked at it. No,
Okay.
it's more than that, because our zoning code is probably that by itself. And so we shouldn't have to do this again for like another 20 years. It's just,
Okay.
I would say probably every 15 to 20 years is when you do the competition.
All right.
Okay.
And then a yearly review, how long do you think that'll take to review it yearly?
For the
Fees?
Well, we're gonna have an employee. Would that be from the law department or finance? You said to review it yearly.
For the fees,
I'm sorry?
for the fees.
For the fees, yes. How long do you think it'll take to review it?
That won't, that'll be a resolution that'll be established and it'll have all the fees on there. So if we have a list of like 60 fees, it'll just be somebody going and checking those 60 fees to see whether or not they are still in the right range.
Okay. All right, so that won't be a huge
No.
undertaking by anybody. Okay.
No, and to remind you, we had already allocated the funds for recodification. You guys authorized funds like two years ago, and then we paid last year's out of our budget to finish it. So the recodification is paid for already.
Okay.
So we built that into what we were already trying to do.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So
Are we on 8?
Would it
I'm-
be?
yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
Okay.
No, that's fine. That's
We
fine.
don't have to do anything else with that, so we don't have to,
Yeah.
right, all right, I just forgot to ask that. Thank you.
All right, number 8, report of the claims committee.
I have no questions on any of the
No.
claims.
I do not have any questions. All right, receive and place on file or motion to approve? For claims?
You can receive and place on file. There's nothing to approve on this one.
Okay.
I thought you were moving
Entertain a
on to
motion
the-
to receive and place on file?
Make a motion.
All right,
Second?
motion made by Alder LaFave and seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes unanimously. E, informational. 2019 contingency account is $53,526.33.
That's a receiving.
That's just receive and place file. What you did approve was $13,000 to come out of that $53,000 tonight.
So we'll be down to 40,000.
Yep, correct. That'll be
and change.
updated correct after this goes through council.
All right, I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's see here, number 2, 2020 contingency account, we're still at 150,000.
Springs eternal. Receive and place on file.
Second.
All right, motion made by Alder Galvin, second by Alder LaFave, all in favor?
Aye.
And then the next finance committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 10th, 4:30. Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Made by Alder Galvin, seconded by Alder LaFave, and we are adjourned.